Recently, while trying to get myself Bright Oninian, I'd figured now would be a good time to work a little on improving my Flyer units to give myself a little more choice for making Fire Emblem teams or just being able to pull out a unit other than Cordelia every time. Well, I was finally able to get a Hinoka after all this time, and since I wasn't using my Divine Dew, I thought looking into her unique weapon would be a great way to start improving my Flyer core. If you missed the news, then Hinoka has gotten her own unique weapon called Hinoka's Spear, and I think it's a great weapon for her. In this video, I'll be talking about why you may want to use it over her standard Brave Lance or the coveted Fire Sweep Lance. First off, let's cover what it does exactly. Hinoka's Spear is a 16 might legendary weapon and its effect is pretty simple. If Hinoka is within 2 spaces of an infantry or flyer ally, then she gets +4 attack and speed during combat. I've labeled Hinoka's stats toward the bottom of the screen, and you can see that she has a pretty decent 35 attack and 32 speed with a neutral nature. With the boost from her spear, Hinoka is rocking a very impressive 39 attack and 36 speed before any other buffs. She will absolutely love a plus attack or plus speed nature, and she can dish out a ton of damage. If you upgrade Hinoka's Spear by using Divine Dew, then its extra special effect is that infantry and flying allies within 2 spaces can move to any adjacent space next to Hinoka. This is essentially guidance minus armor units combined with the new Flyer Guidance skill that Archer Hinoka recently introduced as a C skill. I had never looked into this effect much before, but really it's just a better Flyer Guidance because of the option to pair her with a mixed infantry team. Without needing to sacrifice her C skill or Sacred Seal for an infantry or Flyer Guidance skill, Hinoka can still continue to use her amazing Honed Flyer skill. You can start to see that the upgraded Hinoka's Spear actually synergizes really well if you use Hinoka in a Flier Emblem team. Honed Flyers is so darn good for flying teams, and allies have to be next to Hinoka anyway to get the buff each turn. Not to mention, Hinoka herself gets that +4 attack and speed buff just by having teammates nearby. I think this new weapon plus its upgrade is actually really good at distinguishing Hinoka from the overly competitive Blue Lance Flyer crowd. Just as a fun side note, I saw someone mention that the fact that the upgraded spear gives infantry guidance, it could be a cute reference to the fact that all of Hinoka's siblings are infantry units. Ryoma, Takumi, and Sakura are all infantry, and even the male and female Korin in this game are infantry units. Not to mention Hinoka is always talking about giving people rides on her Pegasus, so all in all, a guidance effect is actually really neat. I really appreciate the subtle details Intelligent Systems adds to some of these weapon upgrades. Some are awesome references to a unit's original game, and others may just be a simple reference to a relationship with other characters. Now let's continue talking about Hinoka as a Lance Flyer unit. Basically, for a very long time, Hinoka has been in the shadow of Cordelia, and the main reason is their stats. Their stats are very similar, and Hinoka holds a little extra defense while Cordelia puts those points into speed. Both of them came with Brave Lances, and with 35 attack, each of them could be deadly wielders of the weapon. Now, just in terms of preference, some units don't really care about quad attacking with a Brave weapon, and the main reasoning is that most times, 2 hits usually get the job done. Between Hinoka and Cordelia, since they have the same attack stat, most times Cordelia's extra 3 speed wouldn't really make a difference. However, things changed a bit when the Fire Sweep Lance was introduced to the game. Suddenly, speed became very important to get a guaranteed follow-up. The Fire Sweep Lance build became insanely popular for flying lance users, and when Tanaga introduced, her 34 attack and 36 speed stat line became another competitor in this group. Losing 1 attack for 4 extra speed is worth it if you run Fire Sweep Lance, because again, getting the double attack is way more important. Recently, I would add Shugure to that list of Fire Sweep users because compared to Hinoka, he trades 2 attack for 5 speed. So why do I think Hinoka's Spear is great compared to a Brave or Fire Sweep Lance? As we just saw, Cordelia can match Hinoka with a Brave Lance and is technically still better if you want her to quad attack with it. Cordelia's extra speed also makes her the better Fire Sweep user, and most importantly, the real reason Cordelia is so good is that she was available as a 4 to 5 star unit compared to Hinoka's 5-star exclusivity. It's just a fact that most players would get a Cordelia before a Hinoka, and now that she is a 3 to 4 star unit, you can fish around for a much desired nature easier. Just to reiterate, I think Tana and Shugure are better Fire Sweep Lance users with their higher natural speed, and in recent times I do think the Fire Sweep Lance build has a lot of good things going for it compared to their usual Brave Lance setup. Second major point is that since Hinoka is so rare to get anyway, I think you might as well make her stand out from the crowd. As we've seen, we have many good Lance Flyers who can compete with Hinoka if you go for the Brave or Fire Sweep builds. With Hinoka's Spear, she gets a really nice 16 might weapon, and the extra +4 attack and speed boost from its effect is easy to proc. not to mention that it's a better weapon for fighting on enemy phase because Brave Lance's lower might and -5 speed penalty hurts a lot, and Fire Sweep weapons have no enemy phase anyways since they can't hit back. My last reason to choose the spear is that it synergizes really nicely with Hone Flyers. This skill is insanely rare, with Hinoka being the sole owner for a long time, and even now the other two holders of the skill are both limited time seasonal units. The fact that Hinoka can keep Hone Flyers and get the Flyer Guidance skill is really great for Flier Emblem ability. She can set up attacks for her allies and continue buffing them when the next turn starts. Being a unit with both Hone Flyers and Flyer Guidance really does set her apart, and Hinoka doesn't have to be just a pure offensive unit. As for builds, I do think Hinoka can be very scary with the extra stats from Fury. 16 might weapon plus 4 attack and speed plus 3 to all stats before any buffs makes any unit quite intimidating. Fury also buffs up Hinoka's defenses a little, and with effectively plus 7 speed just from the spear and Fury 3, it makes it quite likely that Hinoka can survive most one-round encounters. If she gets into desperation range, then being able to hit twice with an attack stat in the high 50s is gonna hurt a lot for any enemy. Now Hinoka's base 32 speed is okay, but I would recommend finding a way to buff it up further, either with the plus 3 Sacred Seal, a plus speed nature, and if you can run a Hone Flyers buff or stacking gold flyers. I know Hone Flyers is hard to get just once, but if you are lucky enough to give Hinoka that plus 6 attack and speed field buff, then that stacks on top of the plus 4 attack and speed from her weapon. Plus 10 attack and speed, I don't think I need to explain how nice that is to have for any unit. For another type of build, here's something you could try out for arena defense teams. Obviously, it doesn't have to only be for defense teams, but I find Flier Emblem teams really annoying for a few reasons. 1. You can't hide from them, so no funneling them into a choke point on most maps. 2. Reposition shenanigans and guidance are really annoying. Flyer Guidance just gives the AI so many ways to be unpredictable, not to mention Hinoka is buffing her team with Hone Flyers. To make things even more annoying, give Hinoka herself Wings of Mercy so that if an ally gets hurt, she can teleport at will and potentially finish off the enemy. Could also use Hardy Bearing to avoid Vantage since Hinoka hits hard but is a bit squishy. Honestly, I think Hinoka can make use of a lot of A and B skills, so don't be afraid to mix and match all kinds of different things. If you want a budget skill, I think Darting Blow is really good since it sort of acts like a kind of makeshift Ishtar who can get plus 10 speed when initiating. Now this last build is obviously not budget friendly, but it's an idea I wanted to throw out there. With the new defense/res link skill from Bridal Sanaki, I think Hinoka could be a hilariously fun user of it. She could potentially grant plus 6 to all stats for a Flier Emblem team by herself, and that is pretty amazing since the rest of the team can then stack gold or ward flyers. If you give Hinoka attack/defense bond, then she could buff herself up so much. Including her own spear, attack/defense bond, and defense/res link, Hinoka can get plus 9 attack, plus 4 speed, plus 11 defense, and plus 6 resistance, which means she could actually play a decent frontline role. Again, it's not very cheap, but adding defense/res link to this kit gives her the ability to grant plus 6 buffs to everything for flyers, and also provide flyer guidance. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. The reason I put in Swap and the new Flyer Formation Sacred Seal is that I think they might be better for getting to activate defense/res link. Now I'm a big fan of reposition on flying units because unlike cavalry or infantry units, flyers don't have to worry about mountains, holes in the ground, or water. However, defense/res link is a skill that requires you to set up, and if you try to bait an enemy in, sometimes reposition just doesn't give you the needed space to get someone in the right spot. Swap on the other hand doesn't need 3 full spaces to work since you are just switching spots with the target. You can easily slide into position and move an ally out of harm's way. You can also do it in reverse and tag out with an ally to let them take a hit. By having Flyer Formation, Hinoka can travel to her teammates on any side and has so many options to use Swap. No matter what movement assist skill you choose, I do think Flyer Formation and defense/res link is a good combo on its own. In review, I think Hinoka's Spear is an amazing new option for her because it allows her to stand out from the group. She benefits nicely from a 16 might weapon that grants another plus 4 attack and plus 4 speed. I think she has a ton of different build options with this weapon, plus she doesn't have to feel like a worse user of the Brave Lance or Fire Sweep Lance builds. Flyer Guidance plus Honed Flyers really does provide a lot of synergy for a Flier Emblem team, and this combination makes Hinoka very unique since both are incredibly rare skills. I do think Hinoka benefits a ton from a Honed Flyers buff herself, but if you can't get her one, then it's not the end of the world. Stacking gold flyers can be just as deadly if you can afford to position aggressively. I know I focused a lot about using Hinoka in Flier Emblem teams, but remember her weapon grants infantry guidance as well. If you want to run a mixed infantry and flyer team, then Hinoka can be a really cool unit to have. She can even exchange Honed Flyers out for a tactic skill, and she can still provide buffs and movement options for the team. Overall, I think Hinoka got an amazing personal weapon and a really good upgrade. Mobility is so important in Fire Emblem Heroes, and flying units are near untouchable until they want to fight on their own terms. With Hone Flyers and Flyer Guidance effect, Hinoka is one of the best Fire Emblem captains who can support a wide range of teammates. She can be a nice cornerstone to build around for a Flyer team, and she isn't a slouch in combat either. Don't expect her to be a godly offensive unit or an unbreakable defensive wall, but Hinoka can very much duel a lot of units when she has to. I know she is incredibly rare still, but I think her unique spear gives her an identity instead of just being a Hone Flyers bot or a harder to get Cordelia. I had a lot of fun making this video, and as I mentioned, the next couple of videos are all covering the same theme, which is basically flying units. Next time we'll take a look at Camilla and see what the Norian princess can do with her shiny new axe. I'll see you guys then.